Americans' approval rating of President Joe Biden has shot up until it reached the highest percentage since October 2021. The president's approval reached 44.1% according to FiveThirtyEight on Thursday. FiveThirtyEight combines polls to come up with averages. The U.S. public has begun to see for themselves all that President Biden has done for them during his first 2 years in office. POTUS has not reached 44% for over 1 year, which was late in 2021, according to the New York Times. President Biden's popularity leaped 3% in just the last several weeks, according to FiveThirtyEight. By November's end, 46 had reached his pinnacle of popularity during his time in office. Conversely, a full 51% of the public has had a negative opinion of President Biden's job performance, which is interesting in that our president has broken records across the many aspects of his job. Democrats have not done an adequate job of informing the public about the president's accomplishments that directly impact Americans. However, this White House reached 53.4% by November's end. President Biden has finally managed to show the public at least some of his accomplishments. This president managed to achieve his own favorability record, which was up dramatically from the 37.5% drop. That percentage also showed a record, negative, of course. Indeed, that tied with Biden's 57.2% disapproval rating last July when inflation was jumping by leaps and bounds. So what has caused President Biden's recovery in the polls? The nation's midterm elections favored the president far more than pollsters imagined. The Senate gained 1 seat to give it a true majority, which impacts the Democratic legislators' ability to take the lead in committees. In addition, Vice President Kamala Harris need not return to the Senate to cast her vote and give the Democrats a victory. However, the Dems party lost the House to the GOP. Remarkably, the Republicans gained a very small margin rather than the red wave pundits had been promising. FiveThirtyEight tracked President Biden's approval rating by collecting the polls of the major pollsters and averaging them. The aggregate pollster then measured each of those polls' partisan bent, sample size, and poll quality in order to come up with its end result. FiveThirtyEight only considers those polls with registered adult voters. One of those polls in FiveThirtyEight's measurements was YouGov. This poll gave the sitting president a full 47% approval rating for last week. However, the Morning Consult poll reported a mere 42% approval rating for President Biden. In spite of the president's many accomplishments, the media on both sides of the aisle have been reporting negatively about President Biden. The discovery of secret files in an office the president used after he left office and the administration's decision to keep the news secret have hurt President Biden. Republicans have been messaging a false equivalency between Biden's and Donald Trump's handling of the documents. President Biden's attorneys discovered the files as it closed down the then vice president's office days before the midterm elections. It has been standard procedure to refrain from releasing information about investigations near elections. Still, our president should have been transparent about the incident after the elections. And now, attorneys for the president have discovered a second cache of files. Even Karl Rove got out his whiteboard and pointed to the ill comparison between Biden and Trump. There simply has not been any evidence of intent to hide President Biden's situation. The Department of Justice selected a Trump-appointed counselor to handle this investigation. Gloria Christie is a political journalist for the liberal online newspaper The Bipartisan Report. Find her here on Facebook. Or at 3 White Lions, her book written in her own unique style with a twist of humor on Amazon Kindle Vella, and the Gloria Christie 3 White Lions podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, etc. Christie's Mueller Report Adventures in Bite Size is a real-life compelling spy mystery in progress.